So I'm kind of surprised that I've gotten this far in my channel and haven't made a video about writing program notes, and that's actually really surprising because writing program notes is actually really important, and we're often not told how to do this in music school. Program notes usually appear in the front matter of a score, so like the first few pages of the score, or they're also included in concert programs when you go to a concert if your piece is programmed. And it gives the audience an idea of what the piece is about. It also helps directors who are programming the music or conductors who are interpreting it get some ideas from you as the creator of the work and to share important details about it that you might not glean from the music itself. So there's a lot of opportunity here to screw this up. But more seriously, there's a lot of opportunity to do really good here, to provide that extra context and that voice of you, the artist, to help shape how your music is performed. When it comes to a lot of the content on this channel, I sort of learn these things as I share them, and if you want an idea of what bad program notes look like, go to my website and look through really any of my pieces. But recently I went to this festival, composition festival in Virginia, and we had a composition class dedicated to just writing program notes, and I learned so much. And also just being at that festival and going to half a dozen concerts in a matter of a week, I was able to do a lot of perusing of scores, and during rehearsals just looking at dozens of pieces and reading the program notes, especially the difference between older published music in the repertoire versus contemporary repertoire, music of living composers. And I've seen a lot of bad program notes and ones that really resonate with me, and I sort of want to put those into words and to really characterize what makes program notes effective. So when you're writing a piece and you're going to self-publish it, you often think of the program notes at the very end of the stage. At least that's what it's like for me. You spend all this time, weeks and weeks, writing the music, and then you maybe spend maybe 20 minutes writing the program notes as you're creating the front matter with the instrumentation list and the cover art, and then you go and upload that to whatever distributor or website, and that's it. And at least for me, when I've thought about this in the past, is I sort of just give the most generalized description of the piece, and my brain works like in a very analytical way. So I talk a lot about the construction of the piece in terms of form and different motifs and ideas, and the theory behind how the piece works in my mind. And the thing is, a lot of the people who are going to be experiencing this piece in a concert hall setting, for example, if you do concert music, is they read the program of the concert. And often the people who make that program just scrap the program note that you list in your piece and just throw that into the concert program. And you have a big responsibility as the creator of that program note to really shape how the audience perceives your music. I think one of the most important things is to make the audience member want to listen to the piece, just based off of how you described it in the program note. And what can the audience member come away with after listening to the piece? And really, to put a fine point onto this anecdote, try to avoid technical jargon. I think that many concertgoers can be off-put by the amount of specialist and technical language that you might find to be helpful, but maybe it's not so helpful for the average person. I also see the issue, especially in big budget symphony orchestras, of wording things, especially large works that are culturally significant, to be labeled in a gatekeepy way. In other words, you don't want to diminish or exclude other types of music, especially if they're performing, for example, Beethoven 5. You might see in the program notes words that include things like masterpiece and pinnacle of Western music. Things like this are gatekeepy and undermine the music of any other genre or medium in any historical period. In addition, a lot of people ask me about the length of a program note. I don't really think that there is a right length for a program note. I've done ones that are 2 sentences to a whole page of prose about the piece. I think that it can be as short or as long as you need in order to convey what's important about your piece to the audience. As long as you can give that audience member what they need in order to listen to that piece and hopefully come away with something after listening to it, I think that's what matters. So the big takeaway that I got from going to this festival, as well as observing a lot of program notes, both great ones and not so effective ones, it really comes down to being conversational and relatable to the audience member who's reading it. You can think of it as a conversation between yourself, the composer, and the person who's reading it. Just think of one person. And this implies that it's totally fine to use the first person in order to describe what you think about the piece, and using phrases like, for me, blank, this means blank. The magic of this approach is that you can be much more personal and relatable as the audience member experiences your piece, and I think that only does good things for their interpretation of it. Another tip that I learned that's actually a game changer is to avoid specific adjectives and qualifiers that sort of imbue a affect for the audience. I'm not even sure what that means, but what I'm trying to say is that you shouldn't describe your piece, for example, as this beautiful melodic tone poem, or describing a section as mysterious and haunting. I think in rare cases, totally fine, and I do this all the time, and it's hard not to describe what you think your music sounds like. But for the interpreter of the piece, the audience member, they might come away with a completely different affect. And what you might think as energetic and electrifying may be something completely different to them. And it's really up to the audience member to describe what they think your piece sounds like. I'm not saying that you have to get rid of adjectives altogether. I think what we talked about before of saying, for me, this sounds uplifting. I think that's fine if you're describing what you think as your opinion is, but just be careful, be very careful about adding these qualifiers to what your piece sounds like to you. You can also fall into the trap of trying to justify or convince an audience member of what your piece sounds like or what it's about, but be unapologetic about your music and describe it as it is to you. And don't worry about trying to justify it to anyone. That's just important to mention. Something that I recommend trying, and I've been doing this recently with projects, is trying to write your program notes during the writing of your piece. I think that you can begin drafting the program notes way earlier in the process than you think. And I'm not saying that you have to do this for everything, but if you have trouble with the vision of the piece and really what it's all about, and just deciphering what the piece can be and really unearthing its potential, I think that writing program notes early on will help you do that. It will help with that unraveling process, because just writing a draft of the program notes while you're in the middle of the project, it'll sort of inform what the rest of the process looks like. It'll actually help you be more concise and deliberate about the piece going forward. And this also helps with the difficulty of sort of interpreting your piece at the end of the process, that mad finish to the end where you just quickly write a couple sentences about the piece, for program notes. But having that deliberate time beforehand, it really gives you that space to accurately and intentionally describe your piece. And doing this also helps you create this broad, big picture view of the piece. Being able to describe your piece in writing, dedicated time and energy towards that, is really never a part of my process unless I make it a part of the process. And that's what this whole idea of writing the program notes earlier in the stage is all about. I think what might turn away a lot of composers from spending more energy and time on program notes is the lack of the ability to write effectively. I know composers are asked to do everything, from, of course, writing the piece, and there's the whole business side of getting your music out there. But, also being a writer is also another thing you have to tack on. Just some ideas for improving your writing. Just do it a lot. I've picked up a small journaling habit to really help me with my tone and my flow and clarity as a writer. Slowly expanding my vocabulary, also just understanding different sentence structures. I also read a lot of articles and books, of course, in order to get new ideas on how to make my writing very cogent and effective and clear. Just reading different genres, from fiction to nonfiction, memoirs, biographies, technical books. All of these different influences sort of help me become a better writer for my program notes, to really give your piece the justice it deserves in terms of conveying it to an audience in your most authentic self. I think that being thoughtful about your program notes really it's not just all about that piece. It's about you as the artist. It shows people what you care about as a person, as a human. And I think that's something that you're going to lose if you turn to AI tools to write your program notes, or to give it maybe 5 minutes of thought at the end of the process before you upload it to your website. I think that giving this part of the process the time and attention it deserves will benefit you in ways you never expect. If you think that you struggle to write program notes, I would, of course, suggest you to go online to the websites of your favorite composers and just read through what they write for their program notes. Some of them might have some of the traits that I described in this video of what not to do. There's not one right way of doing this. It's just, in my opinion, to make it more of a conversation between you and the audience. But I think just absorbing as many different program notes from different composers as possible will help you become more informed. And by dissecting what's effective in certain composers that you admire, will sort of bleed and meander its way into your own pieces. But at least that's the hope. So if you are to take anything away from this, be it this. I don't think that program notes should be this afterthought or filled with technical jargon. They should be a conversation between you and the audience member. Something that's deeply conversational, personal, and really shows your humanity as an artist. And all in the hopes of making that person excited to hear your piece. That's what it's all about. If you have any tips or suggestions or things you might want to challenge me on, please comment down below. If you want some ideas for creating the cover materials and the front matter of your scores, go ahead and check this video out. But thank you so much for watching, and keep writing.